Hey everybody, this is Aeroica. Thanks so much for stopping by for another video. I apologize for not being able to get a video out last week. I had some technical difficulties with my computer, but those are all resolved now, and I am back on track. In this particular episode, we're going to profile Ekko, and this will be at the suggestion of Lorbito15, who had viewed one of my other videos and had asked that I do a profile analysis on this particular character. I can tell you that I've monitored chat every once in a while whenever his name comes up, and I do seem to get some mixed reviews on this particular hero as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at him and see if we can't find some of the good points that might make him a good addition to your team. So my particular Ekko is only going to be leveled up to a 4-star rank. So if you come across one in the 5 and 6 range, the numbers may be a little bit different. As far as obtaining Ekko, that's probably the easiest part of his entire character setup here, because there is a vast array of dungeons which carry his token. You'll notice here that the top 2, which of course are part of an event, will not be there at a later date of this video, but right now they are being piggybacked onto Overlord Executum and to Life Reaper Braum. So those won't exist after that event is over with. But pretty easy to get. If we go ahead and move over to the stats section, and we'll go ahead and take a look at his numbers real quick, we are going to come back and talk a little more in depth about the defense number here and his health here, which is going to relate to probably one of the biggest complaints about Ekko. But we'll talk about that once we get a little more into the video and once we understand a little bit more about what he can do for us. So, of course, this is a light hero, which means he carries the 30% advantage over dark units, but also succumbs to a 30% disadvantage to dark units, so they balance each other out. If we go ahead and take a look at the first trait that he has here, we have lightning immune. He will not take any damage from lightning-based attacks from other heroes that carry that element. We also have the spirit immune. He will not take any damage from spirit attacks. His third trait is magical. He will take less damage from non-physical attacks. And then, of course, the last one is the Team Energy Vault, which will provide a 50% chance that the team will not lose any energy from an attack. So this would be like Bovo Stampede or Lord Braum's attack, which can reduce an energy by a certain amount. I believe Bovis is 1 for his attack, and then Lord Braum does 3. This would give them a 50-50 chance at this rank, rather, to prevent that from happening. So the attack would still occur, but the energy loss would not occur. So that's kind of a nice feature to have. If we go ahead and take a look at his abilities here, you'll see that we have a basic swing. His first attack that he will get is grants all allies 2 energy right off the bat, and then provides them with an electric skin, which is a 42% chance at level 60 to shock, and will also boost the crit of that hero member by 48%. So this is really fantastic and looks really good. His next attack is going to be Electrical Storm, ranged lightning that hits 4 times random enemies for 1,119 damage. So that's, of course, at level 60. And has a chance to do shock them. And there's bonus damage if their hero that they're hitting is already armored. So that will also provide a boost damage if you've coming across some metallic armored heroes or enemies, rather. This will help out with that. And then the last one is going to be Intensify Shock, which is a melee lightning attack for 1,083, and will do 3 times damage if the target is shocked. So this is going to be one of those attacks that you'll really benefit from more if you plan for it ahead of time. So prior to this video, I had already double ascended Ekko, so I don't have the actual character sheet reference for this, but this is a screenshot from Dungeon Boss Wiki. We can talk about the requirements and what you're going to get from meeting them. So in the first Ascension, you have 30 Light Evo Larva, 9 Light Evos, 10 Nature Evo Larva, and 5 Spirit Evos. And in return for that, that's where you'll get his third attack for the Electrical Storm. And then for the second Ascension, 30 Nature Evos, 10 Light Evo Monarchs, and 4 Astral Evos. And that will get you the fourth attack, Intensify Shock. All right, so let's take an in-depth look at at least 3 of Ekko's statistics, and this will directly relate to the chief complaint that I seem to hear most often about Ekko, which is that his survivability is terrible. So the first thing we're going to look at here is his defense, and this reduces damage inflicted by an enemy. So an enemy has a certain amount of power, he will make an attack against Ekko, and this defense rating will help mitigate some of that damage. Another statistic which directly relates to survivability is the health pool. The larger the health pool, the more attacks you can absorb, a better chance of survivability to get healed at some point, so you're a little harder to kill. And the other statistic which will drive some survivability is the dodge chance, your ability to avoid any particular attack. In this case, Ekko doesn't have any chance to dodge those attacks. So nothing special with him in that regard, so we're going to leave that out of our consideration. But we are going to talk about the defense, and we are going to talk about the health. So when we look at his defense of 1154, and of course, that's going to be as a 4-star. 1154 for him, and his health pool is 2967. What I wanted to do was to find some heroes that were comparable. Now, while it doesn't necessarily specify what Ekko actually is, I kind of consider him to be in the caster category. I don't know if it's necessarily fair to call him what is known in the gaming world as a glass cannon, meaning that he's very, very powerful, but very fragile. I suppose if there was an AoE version of him, that would be a more appropriate, maybe like a glass machine gun. I guess I would go with that. All of his attacks are generally based at attacking all of the enemies that are in the area, charging them with being shocked, and then you use that special ability with your other characters in conjunction where they're hitting all the time. So he's not single target, he's mostly an AoE type of attack. I would classify him as a caster, but really that doesn't even matter either, because I went ahead and took a look at some of the other characters, and I went strictly off of numbers, not what they do and how they operate. So if we look at Lady Nimrel, and you'll see in her particular spreadsheet, she has a defense rating of 1,113 with a health pool of 3,674. That's not exactly off par, considering that she is a 5-star hero, at least for me. Not totally off bounds, off of the mark, rather. And then her dodge chance is also 0, just like Ekko's. Another hero that I had made a comparison to was Ignis the Mad. For me, he is a 5-star hero. His defense rating is 925 with a health pool of 3,083. When you compare that on paper, Ekko actually doesn't look too bad, considering there's a full star difference between the two of them. Now, I know there would be some controversy about the value of Ignis the Mad as a hero, but if we're looking at straight numbers, it's not that he is alone in this particular case, and I think that's something that we're trying to say. So what does all this mean about Ekko at the end of the day? Well, I can tell you this. I ran through several PvP dungeons, the Tower of Ponage, and I even completed Chapter 21 of the campaign completely without ever losing him once, although I did come close, I have to admit that. I think what he does is he brings a very interesting set of skills to the table. He is definitely an AoE damage doer, and I think that he makes it so that the damage done by your other single target or primary DPS heroes a little more efficient. You get those guys charged up with that shock, they're able to do hits, it spreads that around to the other team, and you'll see that they get taken down rather quickly because of the way that the damage works with that particular effect and debuff on top of them. I do admit that it does seem like at times that he's getting picked on, maybe because he's the small guy of the group. I don't know. There's been a couple of dungeons rather that I've been in, and it seems like he's the target of all 4 of them until he dies, and then they move on to something else. And I'm sitting there pulling my hair out, trying to figure out why he's getting all the attention. And maybe because they realize that he's the biggest threat. I don't know how the algorithms work behind the scenes, but I can tell you that that did happen on a couple of occasions, I do admit it. But in the entire Chapter 21 that I did, he got touched a couple of times, but nothing major. Everything seemed fair. Everything seemed balanced. We made it all the way to the end. He did a good job, and he, like I said, able to chew down a lot of those mobs. I think there's 5, maybe 6 platforms before you get to the boss. There's a lot of mobs in between the beginning and the final boss, and he definitely assisted in making that a faster run than normal. So I was definitely glad to have him. I think that you have to like with any of the heroes, find a time and a place where he's really going to super benefit you. Maybe he's not the greatest for PvP, but certainly for PvE, I think that there's some applicability there as well. The other part of it is let's just say that he is a glass machine gun, as I had said earlier. If you design your team properly with enough defense buffs, where he's able to take a hit or two without getting squashed completely, that's really where your survivability comes. If you want that kind of AoE power where you can chew down mobs rather quickly, then you're going to have to supplement him with something to give him some extra survivability. As I said earlier, and I know there's going to be, some comparisons, like how can you compare a caster to a rogue and so on and so forth. Like I said, we're not looking at the job tasks or the class task of any particular hero. I'm looking at straight numbers and what I've seen them do. So we look at Ignis. He's not an armored character. Rogue, not an armored character. But if we look at the defense rating of them, and we're not looking at costumes or skins. We're looking at numbers. So when we look at those numbers, they're really not that far off from each other. I mean, yes, there's some significant HP differences between one over the other, and but we can look at that and say, well, it's not like we're talking hundreds or maybe a couple of hundreds, but we're not talking thousands difference here. We're talking some differences that could be explained between the star differences and just the design of the hero overall. So I enjoyed using this guy. I think you definitely are going to have to try to protect him a little bit better. I think if there's going to be some bad days where the guy's just going to get picked on, but I would say that about anything. I've walked into, PvP dungeons, and my Willow, 9 times out of 10, is the one that's going to take the first shot from the defending Willow every single time. It happens all the time. So I don't know what algorithms are written behind the scenes, but maybe that's just the way that it goes. In any case, I think you should consider adding this guy. If you're shying away from him because you don't think he's worth it, put a little time into him and go and take him out for a couple of runs and see what team works best with him and see how you can use him in an effective manner. I was pleasantly surprised with how fast I was able to get through a pack of mobs while they were shocked and how quickly it spreads around. I liked being able to buff my team with that crit buff and the possibility of shocking a damage-doing opponent. It was good. Just a matter of keeping him alive. But even that was really not so much of a task as just something to keep in mind while I was going through a dungeon. If you use Ekko on a regular basis, I would certainly appreciate your thoughts. If you use him as a main staple hero, or you only utilize him to accomplish a particular task, say to counteract a PvP team, I think that would be good to know. Additionally, if you disagree with anything I said here, feel free to comment below. I always enjoyed looking at other people's perspectives so I can improve my own. In any case, thank you so much for stopping by to watch the video. I really appreciate it. You'll see here that I've linked an older video. This is for Lord Zom because we just recently had an event with him, and if you unlocked him, I'd like to show you some of the potential that he's able to do. It's a short video, but it was one where it ended up being Lord Zom versus 4 fully healed PvP defenders. I don't remember the levels at the time, but I do think that you'll be pretty impressed with how he operates on his own, so please feel free to check that out. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you again for your support, and I will see you at the next video.